more water comes out here. And what's it now? I don't know. 800 in here, let's say. And what is it outside? 1,000. More water comes out. Now it's 1,000. What's it out here? 1,200. More water comes out. So what is it at the apex? It's about the same as the spaces around it. Is that okay? You know that? So we have reclaimed a lot of water here, right? Now what prevents this? This should get dilute as this comes out here, right? But as soon as the water gets pulled out, remember there's the base rectus sitting right here, it's going to be pulled into the bloodstream. And then even if it did start getting dilute, what are we going to do as soon as we come up this way now? Now you're at 1,200 here. And what are you pumping out of there? Sorry, you guys can't see. How's my back? Now we're at 1,200 down here, and we start pumping out the sodium. So what's going to happen to this number? Go up or go down? It's going to go down. So it's going to be 1,000, 800, 600, 400, 300. Oh, and we still even keep pumping out more sodium, so it's actually about 150 or so when it gets up there. Okay? So okay with that? This okay? Story okay so far? So what did we do? We have a loop of Henle.
Thank you.
We have an ascending limb of a loop of Henle. What does the ascending limb do? Pumps out sodium. So when the filtrate comes back, when the filtrate starts here, comes down the descending limb of the loop of Henle, it is always going to be encountering a more and more salty solution. So it will always be moving towards a more hyperosmotic space. So because it's permeable to water, you always have a gradient so that water will move from the lower osmolarity to the higher osmolarity. So this allows us to reclaim a lot of water. What maintains the salt gradient is the fact that the ascending limb actively transports sodium out, but prevents water from following. If water were to follow, this would all be 300. Okay. But because we make it impermeable, we can make this gradient more concentrated. So as we come back up now, the filtrate gets less and less and less concentrated. Now what's interesting is that by the time it actually leaves the nephron and is urine, it's actually hypoosmotic. Now, would we always, if I'm already in balance, what did we say we wanted to have happen? I wanted isoosmotic urine to be released. I don't want it to be hypoosmotic. I would get, if I just let this keep coming out, I'm going to get more and more dehydrated. Why? Because I'm eliminating too much water. Does that make sense? So, in order, if I'm already in balance, in order for me to take this 150 here to 300 here, do I want to conserve more water or put in more water? I want to take some water out, right? So I need some way to reclaim some water here. And will it do that? It's 150 here, what's it doing? Always going down into higher salt. So water wants to be pulled out of there. Now what is the most concentrated urine I could produce? If this were freely permeable to water, homeostasis down here is going to be what? 1,200. So I can make a really small volume of 1,200 milliosmolar urine. So that's the most concentrated I could probably get. What's the least concentrated I could get?
150.
That's what I started with. So I can either eliminate 150, or I can take more water out and do that. So that means that if I'm going to regulate the amount of water that's coming out here, I have to have a way to regulate how permeable the collecting tubule is to water, right? If the collecting tubule is permeable to water, am I going to produce dilute or concentrated urine? Concentrated urine. And will it be a large volume or a small volume?
Small volume.
So I'll make a small volume of hyperosmotic urine. Okay with that? Makes sense, right? If the collecting tubule is not permeable to water, right, I'm going to make a large volume of hypoosmotic urine, right? And this hypoosmotic urine would be at the most, right, or the least amount of osmolarity, would be what I started with, which was 150. And anywhere in between, it's going to be somewhere between 150 and 300, or 150 and 1200. You're right with that. So let's just say, for sake of argument, that the collecting tubule is not permeable. And my body has to do something to make it permeable. So what I use, or what my body uses to regulate the permeability of the collecting tubule is a hormone. And this hormone is called anti-diuretic hormone. And you can abbreviate anti-diuretic hormone, ADH. The other name of it is vasopressin, for reasons we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But for this story, it's anti-diuresis means what? Anti means against or not much, diuresis, urine. So in the presence of anti-diuretic hormone, this is permeable to water, and you produce less urine, right? Hence anti-diuretic. In the absence of anti-diuretic hormone, right, this tubule is impermeable, and you produce lots of urine. So anti-diuretic hormone is the hormone that regulates the permeability of the collecting tubule. No ADH, impermeable. Lots of ADH, freely permeable. At resting homeostatic rest, normal homeostatic balance, do you make no ADH, some ADH, or a lot of ADH?
Just enough?
Just enough. Just enough to get me where? To 300. Because if I don't have any, I'm going to stay at 150. If I produce a little ADH, then this is a little permeable, I can get to 300. If I produce a lot of ADH, this is really permeable, I reclaim a whole lot of water, and this is hyperosmotic. Now what ADH does is, it makes cells in that line the relatively impermeable collecting tubule to produce these things called aquaporins.